Welcome to IDAGIO Live. Now, today is the day of the second symphony of Gustav Mahler. It's a magnificent, great monument, a huge work. It lasts long, it's for a vast, big orchestra, chorus, singers. In a way, there is some kind of link to Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, because Beethoven broke the rule of allowing the human voice into the symphony. And since that great work by Beethoven, many composers were searching for how to continue this idea, like Liszt, for example, in the Faust Symphony. Again, a huge chorus ends at the end. And Mahler did the same in his Resurrection Symphony. Why? Now we will try to understand it today. Well, let's help you to listen to the work. How does it start? It starts with a dramatic, huge one note, a G, and then there is a bass declamation. One instrument, the cello bass group. Actually, it's similar than Beethoven. Beethoven also uses the cello and the bass to declamate, almost speak, almost sing. It's actually a human voice through one instrument, which almost wants to be vocal, but it's still instrumental. Now, this leads to a funeral music, Totenfeier, a festive music about the dead. This is typical Mahler. Mahler has many other compositions about the dead and about funeral rituals. And this is so incredibly strange, because right at the very beginning of the 20th century, we are in 1901 when it was first performed, and it was composed a little bit before that. It seems to me almost like a prophecy of the 20th century, of the terrible things which happened in the great wars after Mahler died. But maybe for a great artist like him, it was already in the air, and he could sense that it's going to come soon to all of us, to everybody. Now, there is the large funeral music. And in this symphony, the main purpose of this is to set a question, to say, why? Why do we die? Why is this? Why do we go through this life and then the torture of dying? It doesn't answer the question yet, because then the symphony continues. After this grand first movement, you find yourself in a very different type of feeling in the second movement. It's an idyllic, wonderful, dreamlike, beautiful, again, little Austrian dance-like music. When Mahler wrote a kind of program about the symphony, which I always doubt how important it is, composers do this sometimes. Later they throw it away because they don't believe in it anymore. They want the notes to speak for themselves. But when he wrote this program, he referred to the episodes or the happy moments during the life of the person who may be buried in the first movement. After this sunshine, ease of the second movement, we get to a very strange third one. This is a song, a very simple song by Mahler, which he uses. He quotes himself by adding a song into his symphony. And the song is about Saint Anthony, who preaches to the fish. He goes to the church is empty, nobody wants to listen to him, so he goes to the bank of a river and he starts to preach to the fish. All kinds of fish arrive and they seem to listen, but they keep swimming. You hear the swimming wonderful in this third movement, and then after they swim, there's a great emanation of festive, jubilant music. We don't quite know what it should represent, but we don't need to. Mahler's music is full of free associations. He jumps from one style to the next. So he does in this movement. The fish keep swimming, swim, swim, swim. They swim back, they swim away. And the main last line of this song is that they don't seem to remember anything of what has been preached to them. There is a lot of cynicism in this. And again, when Mahler wrote those programs, he was referring to the emptiness, the side of life which is meaningless and empty, this preaching to the fish. And now we get finally to the solution. In the great fourth and fifth movement, we will have an answer. The fourth movement is again a simple song. It comes from Das Knaben Wunderhorn, this famous song cycle which Mahler picked his ideas from this folkloristic collection. And in this particular case, a very simple childish text saying things like, I was wondering, I wanted to go to God, but then an angel came, an angel wanted to stop me. Don't stop me, I want to get to God because he will introduce me to this everlasting happiness. It's a very naive, childish vision of heaven. And this leads us to this question, religious. Is this a religious symphony? What religion? We know Mahler came from a Jewish family, later converted to the Catholic faith. This symphony was actually composed before he made the move of Judaism and becoming Christian. Now, what? Is there something Jewish in this? I don't hear much Jewish music in the second symphony. There are people who refer to various ideas of a Jewish prayer which speaks about this very soft voice announcing divine things, but there is maybe a little more Christian element in it. Anyway, the type of chorale, this kind of simple harmonies. I hear the old German Christian tradition in this chorale-like melody or sequence of harmonies. But then let's see how Mahler actually creates a wonderful variation of it in this song. You remember it started like this. Now he only turns it into a minor key. And then he speaks about the pain of the humans. Immediately you hear this. Now what about this beautiful modulation? And this lifting just goes a step higher. It's incredibly beautiful. And now we get this sadness. It's the same what we had in the chorale, you remember? Now he turns it into a heartbreakingly beautiful oboe melody. One oboe alone. This is so beautiful. You know how actually out of this Christian element, just turning into the minor key, moving a little the harmonies, changing the melody, we are in this typical eternal sadness of Gustav Mahler. After the naive song of the singer, what we heard, suddenly a great eruption, a little bit similar to the Ninth Symphony of Beethoven, again, how he starts the last movement. I think Mahler refers to that. And then we hear various quotations and ideas which are all about the last judgment, the day of the last judgment. Trumpets are blown from all over the heaven, from various distances, and offstage orchestra plays. Then there is a huge crescendo and an increasing sound of percussion instruments, and it leads us to a maybe all of us on the day. A huge march, huge ugliness, and whatever Mahler could invent. And that leads again to those distant trumpets, the signals of the Last Judgment. And if you listen, you will hear one flute, one piccolo, two flutes, very gently, very softly, a few bird-like songs during those trumpet signals. It's a little bit like a hint of the last bit on the earth, these two birds. But when the trumpets finish their signaling, we hear suddenly first time this chorus. The chorus enters the symphony with the text, what Mahler heard from a Klopstock chorale at a funeral of one of his friends. They speak about resurrection, about that actually we die in order to live, that it's only a short moment that we die. It's a transition to life again. It's the resurrection becomes at the end the answer of the symphony which was posed in the first movement. The chorus is magnificent, two soloists join. It's a huge, long, wonderful movement, and it ends in an incredible sense of jubilation, how we actually celebrate the afterlife, life after life. And I don't think it's any type of faith. I don't think it's Jewish. I don't think it's Christian. It's Mahler's own invention. It's his own religion. It's his own intuitive feeling of afterlife. I don't think we need to search for precisely which congregation he belongs to. It's his naive soul, his all-embracing great heart, his hugeness and grand lyricism, what we hear. It's the highest, most wonderful celebration of the music literature, maybe only matched by Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. So this is this great masterwork, the wonderful, grand Second Symphony of Gustav Mahler, which I think should be left to very festive occasions to be performed. Maybe it shouldn't be performed too often, only when we have a very, very special reason to celebrate and jubilate. Now, before you listen to the symphony, I usually get questions, which I'm very happy to answer. They arrived to my phone. I hope you had questions, so let me see. And I will try to give you answers. So here is a question. I've read that Mahler took 5 years for the symphony with numerous interruptions. Actually, I have to interrupt this question. He actually took 7 years to compose this symphony, and he started with the first 3 movements, he performed them, and later he added the ending. When he finally found the answer, it wasn't easy for Mahler to find the answer to this feeling of the need of resurrection. Now, the question continues. He himself spoke of stagnation. That's right, he was searching. Are there moments in music where you notice something of this? It's more the structure, I think, that actually, as mostly with Mahler, it's not a conceived structure, but it's a free association, a cycle of ideas as they came to him. Mahler did the great surprises. For example, when we'll get to the 6th Symphony, we will see suddenly he decided to change the order of movements. Okay, let's play this movement first and this one next. Not as a concept, but as an immediate feeling. There was something spontaneous about this composer. And I think I don't really hear it. What I hear in it is that these various ideas, the song about the preaching to the fish, the other one, the naive child looking for God, the funeral marches, everything is together, just one big question of where does this all lead to resurrection. Now here is the next question. I've heard the symphony live in concert already. When the choir suddenly rises from its chairs at the end, that was a sublime moment for me. How do you deal with it as a conductor? Does it touch you every time? Absolutely it does. But I have to say, you know, the choir rising or not rising. I had concerts which I conducted where I asked them, stay sitting. Because when you stand up, you actually reveal, you actually show us that you will sing. So the audience knows it in advance. Let's surprise them. Stay sitting, start suddenly singing. And then at a later stage, stand up. And I must say I was happy with this solution. So since then, I always look for these type of arrangements. Now, there is one more question I would like to read to you. Beethoven 9, Mahler 2 and 8, he adds or she, are there still some other symphonies with choir? And why did they call them symphonies when the scores are so completely different from works by Brahms, Tchaikovsky? It's a very good question. are these symphonies or not? Well, Beethoven did this. Beethoven crossed the barrier at a certain point, and this was for Beethoven, after the French Revolution, there was a feeling of euphoria, an incredible, jubilant feeling of the world has a new world order. And Beethoven managed to compose this collective euphoria. And for this, he needed to introduce the human voice in a symphony. This is, of course, a strange thing. Human voice doesn't belong to a symphony, but Beethoven did this move. And it's true that many composers followed his example, and they also included, usually in the final minutes, voice into a symphony. One example, which I mentioned briefly earlier, is Liszt. Franz Liszt composed the Faust Symphony, and there are three movements. There is Faust, Gretchen, Mephistopheles, three portraits actually, and then there is a final chorus with the final words of Goethe's poem. It's elevating, very, very festive and sacred in a way. It's interesting to know that Wagner had a correspondence with Liszt, and Wagner said, I dislike it. Take the choir out, perform the symphony only with the first three portraits, no last movement. So there were people who had the opinion, what you ask, if a symphony should be purely an orchestral work, or should we use Beethoven's unique gesture as a new style of symphony, the orchestra plus the voice, which is added, joins at the end. Please answer yourself. Now, if you click here below, first of all, you will find all my recordings with the Budapest Festival Orchestra, but on the other link, you will see the link for the second symphony, which we recorded in Budapest, and I did my best to do it as well as we could with these huge forces, and I highly recommend this recording. You should listen to it now. And thank you very much for listening. In 1 week precisely at 6 o'clock we meet again, and we will talk about the third symphony of Gustav Mahler. Thank you. This was IDAGIO Live. Goodbye.